hiring or learning from Lloyd is the best shortcut we could have ever taken to get from not knowing anything about organic to being able to do 30 to 40,000 in organic in a couple of months. We probably could have figured it all out, but I learned a long time ago, if you can find a shortcut, it's worth the money. You're the best that I could find, and I looked. So if Lloyd's the best at organic and he wants to teach you, you should pay him whatever amount he asks for, because in our experience, it paid itself back in a couple of weeks. The return on investment in your course it's soon to be close to infinite because it just keeps going and there's no ad cost involved in it. So in the first month, what was our return? Like 5x? You'd have to be thick-headed to not see the value in 5x investment in 1 month that continues to return that same investment month after month after month, as long as you do the work.
Just the other fact that, Facebook and paid traffic especially was getting us to a certain kind of, I don't want to say a plateau, but it was every time we tried to throttle above where we were getting, the ROI just got worse. So we both kind of decided, well, hey, if we really want to be smart business-wise, we need to have another avenue where we're not relying on a platform to grow our business.
So was that essentially the reason why you had decided, you know what, paid is great, but organic makes the most sense. Let's actually try to figure out an organic system at that point?
So we already had like a really weak version of an organic game, I guess. We were doing some direct outreach and just messaging people, kind of the whole Sam Ovens sort of like one sentence outreach. And it was okay. We would get a deal here and there, but it was nothing consistent and it was really time consuming. And the way I found you, Lloyd, was I went into probably the Consulting Accelerator group. And I just asked if anybody had any automation tools for booking appointments. And but it wasn't you, it was your assistant, I found out later, messaged me and said, hey, actually about 10 people messaged me, but you were the only one that, for one, had like any kind of like train of thought in the conversation. Some of like 6 people messaged me, and I don't know if there was like a language barrier, but I think there was just like, they just didn't know what they were trying to say. But your conversation was so smooth and so natural. And what I found out later was completely scripted and well thought out. I didn't know that, but it was so well put together that, and I wasn't even sure what the strategy session was. I figured you had a pitch. I figured it would be decent. I had no idea how good it was going to be. And I was definitely not planning on buying anything from you, especially at your price, which was really a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. And then if you remember, I put you on hold and I called Travis and I said, hey man, this thing is good and it's kind of expensive, but I think it's going to pay itself off in a month. And, we played devil's advocate with each other for about 2 minutes while you sat there on hold. And then I came back on and gave you my credit card. So that was the story of how I found you and how we signed up. And,
there you go.
I'm an advocate of coaching. We're coaches ourselves. So, I think if you're going to learn to do something, then you should find the person who's the best at what you want to do and learn from them and pay them whatever they ask you. So I'm trying to be the client I want to find.
I feel you. I like that. It makes it easier for me to work with folks like you because you understand my my story. So with that being said, why don't we just set the stage with looking at some numbers, right? What were your numbers before working together? And obviously it was like very much paid. So if you can give me your top line with the revenue, but also tell us maybe your ad spend so that we can understand what you actually got to keep. And then let's talk about like the most recent couple of months, what you're able to do in terms of revenue, but also profit, since your margins are going to be a lot different now compared to when they were obviously running on ads.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
So in terms of exact numbers, I don't have those in front of me, but I'd say I was always comfortable spending about 25% on ads. What did we come up with, Travis? Maybe it was a little bit lower than that by the end of the year, but that actually took into account some of the organic stuff, but it was probably 20 to 25% of revenue. So gross revenue, 20 to 25% set aside for ads. So, earlier in the year, that number was probably a lot higher. because we were spending money on ads and it wasn't really attracting the right people, because we had to pivot with COVID and everything. We had to figure that out. But, I'd say, I don't know what, $9,000 a month on ads.
Yeah, it's probably between 8 to 10, depending on, if the ad is doing well, we pour gasoline on it, and ramp it up, scale it up. I think, I do have some numbers as far, basically the problem for us, it's not even so much of a growth thing. It was the ads could be consistent where we would be doing 30 grand a month in revenue, 40 grand a month in revenue. But again, if we tried to scale it, it would fizzle out. But then there would be months where you go spend 10 grand in ads and there's no return. And that was the issue, is it was just there for whatever reason, especially like for COVID, for example, when it first hit, we dumped 9 grand into ads in March. And I think we enrolled one client, like closed one deal that month. So it wasn't even so much that the revenue has increased so much. It's just that the revenue, like you said, Lloyd, is a lot more profitable, because basically the last 3 months, we haven't really run ads at all. We've tested some different things, but as far as the consistent flow we used to have, we've turned that off, and our revenue is exactly the same as it was when we were spending 10 grand a month on ads. Yeah.
November was actually our second best. We were at like almost 40 in November, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was organic from the live webinar. Yep.
Yeah.
Killing it. That's awesome. So you went from maybe doing like a 30, 40K month here and there when you were doing ads, spending maybe 10 grand with those months on spend, and then sometimes having a month just totally tank when it's running on ads. So you lose 5 or 10 grand. And then organic so far has been like a very consistent, smooth and steady 30, 40 with like very high margins. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's filled in the gaps for sure. And I think there's definitely room for us to grow that side of things too. We've been pretty disciplined with what to do, but at first we were just kind of like trying this, trying that, polishing this, polishing that. But I think at this point, it would be easy to take that up a notch and, do double that, I think. What do you think, Travis? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because we're going to be doing that obviously over the next quarter or so to try to double everything and still keep your profit margins really high. So with that being said, I think everyone's kind of curious to hear what it is that you actually did. How did we go from pretty much doing zero organic or very, very rudimentary organic, as you were saying, and within just like a month or two, getting it to like multi-5 figures? Like I kind of know the story, but I think if you were to explain it to everyone, and even to in greater detail, it'd be really fascinating. So maybe you guys can walk through, what that history or timeline was like.
Yeah. So first of all, I went through the whole course before our first strategy call, if you remember. And so I just basically listened to every video, watched every video, did all the work as far as setup and getting things going. I had a couple questions for you on that first call. And then, you gave us homework. We did the homework. And then, we just basically followed the program. We didn't reinvent anything. Again, trying to be the client that I want. When we take on a new client and we say, do X, Y, Z, I tell them to do that because I know they're going to get results. I got that same feeling off of you when you said do X, Y, Z. So we just did X, Y, Z, and then we got the results that we were expecting. Travis and I are both implementers, so we're very fast to like put stuff into action and to practice and to iterate if it's not working, or to know when to iterate and know when to just go, hey, it's a numbers game. We're just working on this to get there. Travis is really great at tracking his results. And we spend some time every now and then analyzing those, but Travis can tell you, how many outreaches, how many replied, how many, he tracks all that stuff. This guy's a wizard on Excel. He's just all over it.
That's you, man.
What's that?
No, that's you. You're the Excel master there. I know how to create a sum of a column.
Yeah. He's a master of summarizing, of making sums on Excel. Anyway, he tracks that stuff and he knows his percentages and he knows the numbers really well. And So I think that's the main thing. And it's really all just what you've told us to do. So we started a group, we started our outreach. We had no luck on LinkedIn, which I kind of thought we wouldn't anyway, because martial arts school owners aren't really on LinkedIn anyway. So it wasn't the right market for us. And since we had success with Facebook ads, I knew they were on Facebook. So the first month we did all the LinkedIn stuff. I don't think we got maybe a couple of appointments off that, but
yeah, maybe 1 or 2. We did it for about 6 weeks.
Yeah. And that was fine. I kind of expected that, but I thought, let's try it anyway. So we spent about 6 weeks, like Travis said, working on LinkedIn and Facebook at the same time. And then we were like, you know what, we'll just skip LinkedIn. Maybe we'll come back to it later, but Facebook seemed to be booking a lot of appointments. The conversation tree was the biggest value for us out of the gate. You know, we would send a message before working with you. We'd send out like we'd friend request somebody. And then as soon as they accepted the friend request, we'd say something back like, hi, I'm Jon and I help martial arts schools get more students. You need help with that. You know, sometimes people would just block you immediately. Sometimes people would reply. Sometimes people would say, yeah, I need help with it. But it was always very like a guarded sort of, you know, right off the bat, they're guarded. And then we started using your conversation tree. We just switched it up a little bit to match our industry. And we get a lot of replies. What's the reply rate? You probably know, Travis.
It's about 1/3 to 1/2, give or take.
Yeah. So probably from like 1/10 replies to 1/3 replies.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it went from about 15% to about, I'd say about 40% as far as a reply rate. And the nice thing, I mean, the conversation tree, I'm glad you said that, Jon, because that was huge because, you know, the stuff we were doing before, you know, from the Sam Oven stuff, which wasn't bad, but it was really just designed to get you 1-2 clients so you can get the revenue. So then you can pump money into ads. So it wasn't really designed as an organic system to really grow. So the conversation tree, like as soon as we implemented it, I was just like, this is genius. I mean, the intro and then just the different if-thens just really has always built towards something good for us. Some of it's immediate, some of it's long-term. And then the fact that you introduced us to Pepper, and even though we were using LinkedIn, it didn't really work for us. I see how it would work, and that U-Link program, it was a no-brainer. It was like, well, we might as well try it because it's not really, we don't have to do anything to try it. We just have to put the system into place and then check on it, that was the biggest hurdle. When we looked at organic before joining your program, it was like massively time consuming. What do we do when things happen? There was no structure. We were throwing a bunch of stuff that we thought would work. We were doing what we tell our clients not to do. And then having Pepper do those conversations has been huge. And then just really from kind of where we are now, and I know there's a lot in between there, but while we're talking about the conversation tree, by building our group up and then having the conversation tree the right way, we really have a great call to action no matter where the conversation goes. If someone, in that conversation tree expresses a pain point, then we can dig into that and schedule a call, which has been great. But if they don't, everyone is expecting a pitch. They're expecting that sell. And we've basically figured out that if they don't have that pain point, we kind of just congratulate them on their success and say, hey, you know what? Not everybody's as successful as you that I come across. I know a lot of people would be, would benefit from your wisdom. Would you be interested in joining our private group and just sharing some of your wisdom? And they're immediately like, yes. And so that's a way that we've basically every conversation is either a strategy session or a group member, which long-term is benefit. So,
yeah, especially because we know eventually they're going to have a problem, and then they're already going to be indoctrinated with our,
or they're just positioning. They're just saying, well, no, everything's good because they don't want to be pitched. Yeah. And then when you invite them to a group, they're like, oh, okay. Because they're the whole time they're on guard because they're like, this guy's going to try to sell me something.
Yeah, no, the group thing is such a game changer. And to me, it's the ultimate form of indoctrination because that's where you can house your VSLs. You can retarget people in your group if you do want to run ads. You can, of course, DM people throughout the entire experience, give away additional lead magnets, collect emails and whatnot. So there's just so many different things that you can do within the confines of the group if built correctly. So with that being said, what is it that you were able to implement from our system that taught you how to scale your group, how to actually get people to be super engaged and book meetings from it? Because it's very easy for people to generate a group that grows to thousands of people, but they can't really figure out how to monetize it effectively. So For you, what is it that you were able to immediately implement from having been in a program to make sure that you're monetizing the people that were joining your community?
So the posting calendar, super helpful, like knowing what to put. We had a group that had, I don't know, 100, 200 people in it, maybe something like that. We still only have like 600. I mean, we don't have a lot.
We're about 600 now.
But it's so engaged. Like if Travis goes on there and goes live, we get like 20 comments out of, 500 people. I think it's a lot. People will constantly, if we ask a question, we get a bunch of answers. Whereas before, it wasn't really, we weren't getting that kind of engagement. But I think the regularity of getting in there and posting every day, and then the long form posts, like the stories are great, but we've also done like the short question things, like all the stuff that you teach in there, like just those posts that are different and they kind of mix it up. Travis will go live once or twice a week. Is it twice a week now?
It's twice a week. So what we'll do is on Monday, we'll just do like a shout out to the top 5 contributors, and we'll just tag the top 5 from that week. You can get that on your page insights. And then on Tuesday, we just do like a thought-provoking question kind of to like we post, and we get a ton of comments. Like, it's just kind of like, hey, if you had $10,000, what would you do to improve your business? Like, how would you spend it to improve your business, just to get engagement? Then Wednesday, I'll just kind of go live real quick on my phone with just some type of, business wisdom. Thursday, it'll be what we've done, Lloyd, is we've actually taken that epic content, all those like long form posts that you have for the other groups. And I basically edited them and put them into a teleprompter. And I just go live with that long form that we've created. It's 10, 15, 20-minute videos that we just do in our group. And then I'll post it to my personal page too. I'll use OBS to stream it again. And then Friday is like our call to action. It's either like, hey, we have a live webinar coming up, register, or I'm looking for 5, people that want to add 30 students or 10 students in the next 30 days, comment below. So Friday is like our kind of business call to action stuff. And then we encourage our current clients to go in there and share their success. So that's really kind of what we're doing in the group to get involvement. But we have it very mapped out each week, each day of the week, just so we know, hey, there's going to be structure and constant engagement.
Yeah. And then I think the biggest revenue generator out of the group is definitely we've done one live webinar every month. December, it didn't do great. We still got a couple of deals off of it, which was a couple of deals, that's $6,000, $7,000. That's fine. That's great. But November, we did one on Black Friday and we enrolled 8 or 9. 8 or 9.
It was like 25 grand in a day.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then the month before that, I think
we did like in October, we did like 4. Yep. From the organic, the live.
Yeah.
And then we've also had some front end stuff that we probably had 10 people buy like a more front end offer just to get them involved in our process. And
that group. Lower ticket. Yeah. And the great thing about that Black Friday one too was it was fully automated. We didn't even book strategy sessions. We just sent them straight to our sales page and signed them right up. We tried it in December. It didn't work so good in December, but
it was still 2 people.
It was like the day before Christmas Eve was when we did it. So
yeah, probably could have shifted that up maybe a week.
Yeah.
Helped, I think.
I was thinking everybody's done shopping. So if they had a little extra money and they're still in a buying mode,
there wasn't I know you're in Brazil, Lloyd, but there wasn't a lot going on in the United States in December. Just everybody was just kind of relaxing a little bit. So not too many distractions.
Yeah. There was no elections. There was none of that stuff. There's no viruses, nothing. It's just like totally calm here.
One thing, John, that you did to grow the group was I remember you took our lead all of our contacts. I think we have about 10 to 15,000 contacts, and you had a campaign to get them. What was it? A text and email campaign to get them to join the group. And that was a big bulk. That ended up getting us like an extra 300 people pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, we just emailed them all and told them we're starting a group. Basically, your copy that you came up with about joining the group, stuck it in an email, sent it out to everybody, and did like a 2 or 3 day campaign and invited them all to the group.
One other thing I'm doing to grow the group is, while we're talking about the group, is 2 or 3 times a week. And I'd like to do it every day. It just can get kind of time consuming. 2 or 3 days a week, I'll go into those other groups that we join based on the, the posting calendar. And I'll just scan that group for the most active people. I'll friend request them. And then I'll just kind of pitch them on, hey, I love the wisdom you're sharing. I have another group where people will definitely, build them up and people will definitely benefit just to get. So I end up getting probably from that, I'll probably get about 10 really active people in the group each week that way. And right away they get excited because they're being invited to be active. So I see right when they jump in there, they comment on stuff and are, posting things. So that's another way, because we can go get a bunch of people in the group, but if they're all just dead, then it doesn't help. So it's nice to make sure I'm making a point to go find people that are active in other groups, because usually they'll be active in ours too.
That's actually such a good idea. I like how the two of you come up with different ways of doing stuff beyond just the program. Because I'll tell you right now, like not everything that you guys are talking about, I explicitly tell you guys to do in the program. So you're taking the initiative and doing additional stuff and kind of, taking ideas, but then putting a little bit of your own flair on it. So I think that's really awesome that you guys are able to do that. That's pretty sick. Happy about
Lloyd, we were just talking the other day, if it wasn't for a program like yours, though, we would have never had the structure to do these types of things. We literally just said, hey, if Lloyd's program was free, we probably would have looked at it and implemented some of the stuff. But the fact that we made an investment in our organic growth, it made us, hey, we're going to follow step by step. It forced us to get into position to really take it seriously and put these things in place. So while we have these extra things we're doing, it's great. But really the foundation was the stuff that you put us in place to be able to build off of.
Yeah, man. No, that's really good to hear. And I'm always, a proponent of that idea of if something's really valuable to you, then spend some money on it, because it forces you to actually try to utilize it and get a return on it. Whereas free things you tend to just not appreciate or value as much. Never ideal, I would say. So as far as next steps are concerned, to me, it's very clear what your next steps should be. I think having a team to support you on some of these different elements so that we can put time back into your calendar, Travis, your time back into your calendar, Jon, that would allow you to have just much more leverage. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you think your future is now that you have a group and you understand how to grow it, now that you have your content and conversation tree solved. What are your, major things to focus on this upcoming quarter, and where do you think that it's going to bring you organically as we continue this project together?
Okay, good. That's a good long question. So we've talked about adding teams or team members. I think we're holding off on team members until we hit 60K. Did we say 50 or 60? Consistent.
We'll discuss it when we get to 50 and see if we need to wait until we get to 60 every month.
Yeah. Right now, I think we're both pretty busy, but still have some capacity. And so we're really trying to stay efficient. And I'm very cautious about hiring people. Back a few years ago, about 10 years ago now, I owned a telemarketing company before Facebook ads were cool. And we were cold calling people and setting appointments that way. And that was a big, we had 15 telemarketers and about 45 sales reps that would actually fly around the country and do face-to-face sales. And that was expensive. And it was a HR nightmare. I had one person on staff and all she did was hire people. We never had to fire anybody in the telemarketing office because they just quit. Telemarketing sucks. It doesn't matter how cool the environment is or how fun. I mean, we had fun. I was reading books about the founders of Google and, all this stuff was coming out about how your environment should be fun. We had Nerf guns and goofed around. But even then, you still have to make a lot of cold calls and it still sucks. So people would quit constantly. So we just had one person in charge of hiring. She just hired all the time. That's all she did. And, I talked to Travis about this all the time. It took an hour for people to decide what they wanted for lunch. And that drove me crazy, So I'm not interested in building a huge team. And I know everybody's working remote now and we will have to bring on some team members. We will have to bring on some VAs to do some of the scheduling and some of the organic stuff. But, I'm holding out on that as long as I can, because the less people that we introduce into the process, the less headaches we have. And, I hit the lottery with Travis, like having him on the team is crazy, crazy awesome because, he's got the same mindset that I do. We're in this together. We're going to make it as good as we can make it. And it's hard to find people like that to get on your team. And so I do think team is in the future, but not in the very near future. In terms of what we're going to do organically, I think it's really just a matter of the disciplines that we're already doing and just doing them more, as the group grows, it seems like it gets easier, and we haven't even hit 1,000 yet. My goal was to hit 1,000 by the end of this month. I don't know that we'll do that. But I think it's just a matter of the disciplines and the consistency. That seems to me to be the best way to get anything done. If you eat an apple every day instead of a candy bar every day, it's not going to be 2 months that you lose a bunch of weight, but 5 years from now. Yeah. So that's kind of how I see it. It's organic, We got there fast because we rushed to the milestone. And I think now we're just kind of like, we're going to just see that continue to go. And it'll be interesting to see how the webinar goes this month. We're doing that a week from next Tuesday, the 26th. Yep. And so now that Christmas is over, the election is over, COVID's still here, but I don't know. People are sick of that, I think. So
both literally and figuratively, huh?
No pun intended.
Yeah, I think one thing I appreciate about your program, Lloyd, is that is a part of the program at the end is, having some structure to bring it on team when we get there, whether it be VAs or whatever. There's not a lot of stuff out there. A lot of people get to a point and then they're like, all right, they're posting in ClickFunnels, I'm looking for VAs. And it's like, well, you have fun with the responses you're about to get, So it's good that there's structure behind that. I think from long-term, like Jon was saying, it's really only been 3 months and really only a month and a half where we've really had a great structure in our group. We spent the first month and a half going out and getting people into our group. And then once we got to about 400 or 500, we're like, hey, let's spend more time. Let's keep bringing people in, but let's really focus on who's in there and make it an awesome group. I think we're going to see a lot of the seeds that are being planted really start to grow. Our industry, what happens is at the beginning in January, school owners they'll get a big influx of people because kids are going back to school. Christmas is over. Mom wants Johnny out of the house. She's driving him nuts. She needs something to do. So they'll get an influx. But what's going to happen? Really, I like that we're doing it on the 26th. In about the next week or two, that's all going to die off, and a bunch of school owners are going to be sitting around saying, "Okay, I got a bunch of students, but no one else is coming in." So they're going to be good cash flow positive, but they're also going to be in a position where they're like, hey, I need this to continuously go. So I think a lot of the organic seeds are going to pay off there. And we've already seen it. I remember one guy that we closed that signed up either in October or November. He was just like, he reached out to me to schedule the call. And he was like, yeah, I just had to talk to you because I just kept seeing your freaking posts everywhere about all the success all your people were having. So the organic was paying off. And then one of the live videos I did in our group, somebody commented that it was the best thing ever. Then their business partner texted me or sent me a message on Facebook. And we ended up closing them. Like, we've never interacted with this person at all, except for inviting them to the group. They saw, a 30-minute video, a live video turned into, $8,000. So, those seeds are definitely going to start to grow, especially because we've really only been consistently planting them probably for the last 6 weeks. In a way that they're going to grow. So
that's awesome, guys. You guys are really crushing it. And I think there's a bit more flexibility on you guys' end, if we're being totally honest, because there is 2 of you. Someone who is a solopreneur, they probably have to hire a lot faster.
If it was just me, I wouldn't be able to run the business and do the organic that I'm doing right now. I would have had to at least brought on a VA right now to handle a lot of this stuff because Jon's able to handle a lot of the back end building and stuff. I'm doing the sales calls. We're both tag team in different parts of the organic. I think about it, if it was just me, there's no way I'd be able to do it all by myself, right? Where we are right now.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Same here for sure.
Yeah.
No way it could do
And that's why, like, in the program, we do have like specific instruction at like, okay, you're at this revenue. Now is the right time to hire. Now is the right time to delegate. Now is the right time to automate. because a lot of my clients are not necessarily working with a partner. They have to tackle everything themselves. And that's also for me as well, because I'm a solopreneur and I have a team now, but in the beginning I had to struggle with a lot of the manual stuff. And then I offloaded it some more. So once you guys do get to the place that you have to hire, I think the programming will be just as specific when it comes to that type of stuff, maybe even more so. As you saw with prior modules about scaling your community, about the conversation tree, and you're going to realize that you can get really, really talented people for a very low cost and get them to be just like hyper focused and hyper efficient at what it is that they have to do in terms of outreach, content distribution, and appointment generation. So once you get there, then we can free up some time as well for Travis to just focus on sales calls instead of also be setting his own appointments, which I think is going to be a game changer. And that's how we can like help you guys get to 50, 60, 70, 100 a month, I think, at very, very low spends as well, right? Like pretty much no ad costs at that point still. And then from there, if you want to spend 20 grand on ads, like go for it. Do whatever you want. You have the flexibility to do that at that point, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. So, I mean, closing remarks, and then we can head to Q&A. Like if someone is like just watching this video and they're maybe thinking about working with myself and my team, maybe they're overly relying on paid ads, or maybe they're still doing organic in a very clunky, old-fashioned way. Like what would you tell them? What is it that you think would be valuable to them when it comes to the program that we have at Attract and Scale?
I would say hiring or learning from Lloyd is the best shortcut we could have ever taken to get from not knowing anything about organic to being able to do 30 to 40,000 in organic in a couple of months. If we probably could have figured it all out. We're both smart guys, but I learned a long time ago, if you can find a shortcut, it's worth the money, you know? So, you're the best that I could find. And I looked at who's the best at organic. Lloyd's the best at organic. So if Lloyd's the best at organic and he wants to teach you, you should pay him whatever amount he asks for, because in our experience, it paid itself back in a couple of weeks. And then the return on investment in your course was, it's soon to be close to infinite, because it just keeps going and there's no ad cost involved in it. So, you know, I mean, in the first month, what was our return? Like 5x. I mean, you'd have to be thick-headed to not see the value in a 5x investment in 1 month that continues to return that same investment month after month after month, as long as you do the work. So it's not easy, but it is possible, and it's simple once you put the disciplines into effect. How's that for a testimonial?
That was good. I don't know if I could, that's as good as it gets.
Now I just need to break a board at the end.
Yeah, I know. You need to do a karate chop or a taekwondo kick or something ridiculous there. No, that's awesome. Travis, any last words on your end before we head into Q&A?
Yeah, I mean, same kind of thing. You know, Jon he said it really well. Just could we have reverse engineered organic? Probably. When we talked about it, because we assessed, hey, how's things going? How did it, now that we're kind of out, we have things in place, it probably would have taken us like 2 or 3 years to really get a system in place. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of like waiting 2 or 3 years and getting frustrated about stuff. I posted a meme a little while back, I'll go and figure it out on my own, said no successful person ever. Like we live in a time where experts share, like that's like the norm now. So it's like, why not just go to an expert like Lloyd and just get the knowledge and just get to it. So
there you go. Lovely. So we have obviously a ton of people here in the room. So if anyone has a question, please ask, I suppose. The way in which we're going to ask, I think, why don't we just have whoever wants to talk, just come on, share a screen, unmute yourself, and just ask real quick. That'll be the easiest and most human way to do it.
All right, I got a question.
Who wants to go first? Yeah, Grant, you're up.
So near the beginning of your talk, you were talking about you would contact people and they would seem guarded about your questions. What did you change about your pitch to kind of ease that tension?
So before working with Lloyd, our first message to a new friend on Facebook, that's the only place we were doing it. We would friend request. We sent him a message that said, "Hey, I'm Jon. I help martial arts schools get more students. Do you need help with that?" And most of the time, we would get either a block or some kind of like negative response back or no thanks, that kind of stuff. When we took on Lloyd's conversation tree, I forget what his said exactly, but ours says something along the lines of, "Hey, I do some traveling. If I'm ever in your area, I'd like to stop by your school." Or I was connecting with other martial arts school owners. I came across your name. If I'm ever in your area, I'd like to come by your school. Mm-hmm. Just kind of straight up like that. And that will get 40% to reply back. And then once they reply back, then it's just a matter of asking them, how's it going in the school? How are things? Have you been able to enroll students? Especially this season has been a real easy question. It's like, hey, with everything going on, have people been coming to the school? Have you been enrolling students? And it's really easy to get to a pain point right now because most of them are either completely shut down or they're at like limited capacity. Half their students have gone away and they're, scared or whatever. So it's been easy to get pain points that way, but it's been very conversational. And we basically just took Lloyd's conversation tree, that big map thing. I actually copied it into a Word document because my brain doesn't work like that big map thing. And then we just kind of reworded it to match our industry and made a couple of tweaks to it. And that's it.
Cool. So just conversational, just start up saying like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then like, "How's your business going?" And then like, either way, if they're like doing well, then you said, "Hey, like good for you." And then if they're like, "No, I've got pains," that's like, "Hey, maybe I can help you." Is that it? Cool.
Essentially, yeah. And that intro comment that, from the conversation tree was really, martial arts schools are very proud of their school. There's a lot of integrity with it. So when you're like, "Hey, I'd love to come check out your school," most of the time they're excited. They're like, "Oh, I'd be honored to have you." So if whatever your niche is, finding what they're excited about with their business and tying that in. And then, yeah, if they're usually the response is, "Oh, that would be awesome. Thanks so much." I'll just say, "Well, how is it going at the school? Now that we've established the school, how's it going at the school?" If they're like, "Oh, it's going great," I ask a couple questions about, "Hey, what are you doing that's working?" Because, "Hey, prove it to me," kind of thing. But that's my way of saying, well, what's going so great? Because sometimes it's actually not. But hey, I'm curious, what are you doing that's working so well? If it's something that's going well, again, I'm not going to push it. Awesome. I'd love to, I know other schoolers would love to hear your story. Can you join our group? If they're like, "Oh, it's going okay," I'll be like, "Oh, just Lloyd's conversation tree. Hey, I totally understand. I've been hearing that a lot lately." That is such a great, that statement right there is like freaking gold. I mean, that's worth, yeah. "Hey, I totally understand. I've been hearing that a lot lately. Has it been difficult?" And then whatever your niche has difficulty doing, what problem are you trying to solve? Has it been difficult enrolling new students? And then it's like, they just open up the floodgates. Or if not, again, I always have the group to invite them to. So that's really the introduction. Nobody gets mad. It's always very casual, which is great.
Well, one guy got mad.
One guy got really mad. He was another.
You can't please everybody. Right?
Yeah. He was another marketer, and he went nuts on me. And I joked back with him sarcastically, and he like screenshotted my conversation, cropped it out, and posted it on his page. It was, price of being sarcastic.
It was pretty comical.
Also, I do want to say that I've heard your pain about hiring people, and I'll let you know that I might be able to help you in that area. So we can talk afterwards if you want.
Thanks, Brett.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
We have a hand up, and the hand up is Marie. Marie, what up?
Right. So my question is, how often do you post or push your content out there, especially in the beginning? And what type of content were they? Were they mostly case studies, or what other contests do you have posted, especially in the beginning that you started with the organic content marketing?
Maria, are you talking about the content marketing that you post in other people's groups or in our group?
In yes, and also in other platforms or whatever platforms you're using.
Got it. So we did start out doing a lot of the posting in other groups, and we found out real quick that in our industry, those groups are savvy and guarded against that kind of stuff. And at first we're like, who cares? If we get kicked out, we get kicked out. And then we got kicked out of a couple. And then it was like, oh, there's a lot of members in there we could be connecting with and inviting to our group. And so we've cooled it on posting in other people's groups as far as content. And we've really focused more on just getting them into our group for two reasons. One is, we can continue growing our connections through that group way under the radar. Like the admins of that group are none the wiser. But secondly, then we can get them into our group and then we kind of control the narrative there. But we were posting on the regular schedule with whatever Lloyd's thing was like, one in this group and then one in that group and one in that group. Most of it was the long form content, the epic content, I think is what it's called in the group, where it's like the big long story and it basically just kind of here's how I can help, or here's my story of how I overcame this obstacle, whatever it is. Those always seem to work in our industry, and I think any industry, it's a story that they can relate to, that they can empathize with, and they can say, hey, I'm in that story. This sounds like my story. I can relate. And then by the end, they've seen you turn a corner that they haven't been able to turn yet. You've closed the gap that they haven't closed yet. And that's where it generates the most interest, is when, you're closing that gap from where they are to where they want to be. And you've already made that close gap. What do you think, Travis? You got something to add?
Yeah, I think looking at the posting schedule, I think it's great. We aren't in the exact same situation as everybody, and everybody's not in the exact same situation. But when we came to the table with the organic, we had an email list of 15,000 people. We already had 100 to 200 people in a group. So we did do that, and it was bringing people in. We did get kicked out of a couple groups. But by using our email list, it just allowed us to speed up that process where we didn't have to do the posting calendar. And then we got to a point where it was like, okay, well, instead of spending our energy on the posting calendar, let's do what I said earlier, where I'm going to track down active people in that group and see. It can get time consuming, but seeking out those active people. But then from a regular posting standpoint, so again, in our group, we post regularly. Monday, we'll post I'll go in the page insights and see the most active people. And I don't always pick the most active. I'll pick a couple people lower on the list just to get some more people tagged. But we'll do a top 5. Thanks for participating in the group. Tuesday, we'll post a really thought-provoking, fun question. Wednesday, I'll go live with some wisdom. Thursday, I'll read an epic content that we created on video. And then Friday's a call to action. So it's really that 4-to-1 ratio, 4 pieces of value and engagement to 1 call to action. And then it's kind of the same thing on on my public profile too. I'll make a point to post 2 or 3 just personal things so people know I'm a regular person. I'm not just on Facebook for salesiness, even though I'm just on Facebook for work. So anything you ever see me, if you're a friend of mine, if you see me post it, it's a work-related post. But I'll post some personal content, and then I'll find like an article about the industry, and I'll post that with a link in the comments. That way it shows on people's feeds and they can see it more. And then I'll post something fun. Like yesterday, I posted a picture of those little wheelie things that we used to have in the 90s in gym classes. It was just like a meme just to get people laughing and engaging with my page and liking posts. And then again, that 4-to-1 principle, once a week, I'll post some type of call to action, whether it be a long form post to schedule, get some support and schedule a call, or one of our low ticket offers, or to join the group. So once a week, I'll just on my personal page, just post some type of call to action. So I'll just keep with that 4-to-1 ratio. And then every once in a while, if I see something fun or a cute picture of my family that just, again, gets people liking my pictures and engaged in my profile, if I'm like, oh, that'll be great, people engage in that, I'll post that.
That's awesome. I feel as if this was partially answered, but Dave had a question of how do you get active people in your group, and maybe how to get this to work for Instagram, since he is more in the Instagram type of world. Do you feel as though you've answered that question more or less there, Travis, already?
Yeah, Instagram. One really, honestly, right now I have another friend. If you're really trying to grow your Instagram audience, we haven't. Oh, my friend has done this. We haven't implemented us because it's not really our audience isn't in it. But in Clubhouse, if you can get into Clubhouse and just communicate your Instagram through Clubhouse, a friend of mine just added 3,000 followers in a week just by going into Clubhouse rooms and asking questions and just saying, "Oh, well, if anybody has any input, follow me on, comment on Instagram." And he's gotten, 3,000 followers on there. And the nice thing about Clubhouse is, you have those rooms that are, topic oriented. So yeah, I think we've answered the how we get active people. As far as Instagram goes, that's the only thing I would know about Instagram that I've seen work, because our industry really isn't really on Instagram.
Cool. And one last question that I just got privately is, how is like the coaching support in the program? I mean, on our end, we don't do as much group coaching as we do one-on-one coaching with our flagship program, but I'll leave it to the two of you to, give a little bit more detail as to the level of support and the way in which we actually work together.
I mean, it's been top notch. It's been even more than I expected. I know that when we first signed up for the program, Lloyd said, we're going to be working together closely and doing this and that. And I thought, yeah, okay, great. I'll watch a bunch of videos and I'll do some stuff. And if I have questions, but Lloyd, you've been really proactive at reaching out to us and saying, hey, we need to get on this call and do this homework. And it's been good. And all of the feedback that we've gotten has been helpful. So anytime we've gotten on a call, and if my ego runs away and says, this is what we're doing, Lloyd's been real good about saying, well, let's take that in this direction and let's do this instead, because this is going to be better. And by whatever grace of God, I've been able to accept it and drop the ego and do what's asked. And it's worked. So the coaching's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you gave us freaking homework like 3 weeks. Like John was like, hey, we're having this call. I thought it was just be like a call like this, which these calls have a ton of value. But John's like, hey, we have a call with Lloyd. I'm like, all right, sure. And then I'm like, oh, this guy's got freaking like to-do lists for us, which was great. I just wasn't expecting it, but it was good because it was like, hey, let's take action. Let's do things the right way and get this thing going. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I know. To me, it's a bit weird that more people don't do that, because like, left to their own devices, I think people tend to just do nothing. But I mean, I'm glad that it's a value proposition for me, since apparently not many other people in the industry actually just give homework.
The only place I've seen that kind of one-on-one, like, hey, I'm going to sit down and talk with you exactly about you, is really those like $30,000 mastermind, type programs. So, I mean, I've seen them before, but never in an environment that the way, your program was presented.
Yeah, don't give me ideas. I'm going to raise my prices now.
You can raise it to whatever you want. We're already in it.
Good to hear. Well, that being said, I think we're pretty much out of questions. I think everyone's been answered and you guys have gotten through your story. You pumped my tires a bit as well, so I'm appreciative of that. And yeah, guys, thank you for hanging out, whether it be just directly on the Zoom or the people that are just listening live on our group. And the replay will be here as well for people to listen to in the future. But I appreciate that you came on, and we're excited to, I'm sure, continue pushing into Q1, Q2 of 2021.
For sure, man. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, Lloyd. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, appreciate you guys. Ciao.